Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Lottie and today we are doing my August stats and wrap up. If you can hear barking in the background, please ignore it. All the neighbourhood dogs have decided now is the moment that they need to have their neighbourhood barkathon, and I don't really have the time to just wait for it to stop. So we're just gonna have to deal with it. Today we're doing my August stats and wrap up, talking through all the books that I read in August. As you guys know, I did 3 readathons in August as well, those being Camp Spoopathon, which was the first week of August, and Magical Readathon and Polathon, which were 2 month-long readathons. So without further ado, let's get on with my statistics. In the month of August, I read a total of 6 books, which is equal to 2,131 pages, which amounts to about 69 pages a day. It's obviously a lot less than I typically try to aim for. I aim for about 100 pages on average every single day, which is about 3,000 pages in the month. I didn't feel slumpy in August, but I don't know. If we look at my star ratings, I had 1 3-star read, 1 4-star read, and 4 5-star reads. So I really enjoyed the books that I did read. I think I was just reading a lot slower in August, which meant I was enjoying the books more and just taking my time with them, which I really quite liked. So if we look at the genres I read, I had a pretty mixed bag, which is typically usual for me. So I read 2 fantasy books, 1 contemporary, 1 horror, 1 romance, and 1 sci-fi. For media, I read 5 physical books and 1 ebook. For format, 5 of the books that I read this month were novels and 1 was a comic. And for my age categories, I read 5 young adult books and 1 adult book, which very nearly was just 6 YA books during the month, which is weird. I like to have a little mix between YA and adult usually, so I'm just really feeling my young adult literature at the moment. And then finally, for my TBR, 3 of the books that I read this month I hauled this year, and 3 of the books I have hauled previously. So that's done, that's out of the way. Let's get on with my readathons and how I did with them. So the first readathon that I participated in was Camp Spoopathon, hosted by Spoopy Hole, of course. And the sort of theme for this readathon was that we have been to a summer camp where there has been a murder and we have to get from Lake Death back to Camp Spoops. I can't remember what the name of the cabin was. Cabin Spoops? I don't know. But this was the map for the readathon with all the books that I read for it. I did try and complete the map at least once, which I was very successful with. Because I'd managed to do that quite early on in the week, I went back and tried to do the other path. I started Afterlove during the readathon, but I ended up finishing it after the readathon, but I just counted it anyway because it's not that deep. So I basically completed the whole map in 1 week, which I was very impressed with. I managed to double up on a lot of the prompts, which was very nice. I'm gonna have to put my coffee down to talk about Magical Readathon because I need to get my paperwork out. Magical Readathon is the Aurelian Readathon hosted by G at Books Roast, and I have all my paperwork here to talk about how I did. If you remember in my TBR video, I said I wasn't a fan of the prompts in August, which I still wasn't throughout the month, and I was kind of thinking I'll just read 7 books to fit the 7 prompts I would have been doing for the subjects that I was doing, but I felt like that was too cheaty. Instead, what I ended up doing was just reading what I wanted to without worrying about the prompts. At the end, I went back and see which books would fit the prompts. So I'll talk you through which books were for which prompt during the readathon, but I will let you know now I did not complete my callings. 2 in mind for my character, which were either a herbologist or a beastmaster. I completed the prompts for these during spring, which there was a bit of crossover. For this I only had to do alchemy and restoration, and for this there was elemental studies, animal studies, alchemy, restoration and law. So I was able to pretty much do the prompts for any of those to fit either career. I didn't complete them, but it's fine because I figured you don't necessarily have to get all your qualifications in one go. Like my character, she can like do resets next year or something depending on what's going on with the readathon, so it's fine. So what I will tell you now is my character has a D in restoration, which is the highest grade. She has an O in elemental studies, and she completed 2 quests during the readathon, which meant that I got a total of 70 points this round. I got 10 points each for the 2 quests that I completed and 50 points for completing the semester, because although she didn't get like all qualifications she needed for any of the callings like she wanted to do, she still got 2 qualifications out the semester. I feel like that she would have finished the semester. She didn't necessarily fail and like have to drop out or anything. So this is what my guild thing is looking like at the moment, which means I have 120 points, previous 50 points from completing the spring equinox, which means I am now an assistant and just getting into the revered level on the guild thing. I don't know if I've mentioned this in previous videos either. My character is in the Order of the Crescent. So quickly before we move on into what the books I actually read this month were, the last readathon that I did in August was Polathon, the fishing tourney hosted by Jade from Jadey Ray Reads, and the aim of this one was just basically to read as many pages as you can during the month to catch fish for the polar bears. I was halfway through another book at the end of August, so I've counted it towards my total page count for the month and then rounded it up to the nearest 100. So my actual page count for August was 2,400 pages, which meant that I caught 24 fish for the polar bears, and I did donate £24 to Jade's fundraiser for reading that many pages during the month, so that was pretty cool as well. So now we can actually get on with the books that I read and what I thought of them. Very quickly though, I'm just going to mention that I was halfway through Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare at the end of August. I have since finished it. It will be counted towards my September statistics, and you'll see my thoughts on this in my September wrap up. I've been reading this series, the whole Shadowhunters world, as a part of By the Angel Along. There's been a couple of times where I've had to carry the book over into the next month just because I haven't had enough time to finish it basically. I will say I absolutely loved this, but more on that in my September wrap up. Okay, finally, let's talk about the books that I read in August. So the first book that I finished in August was Gallant by V.E. Schwab, and I rated this 3 stars. This I used for the object restoration prompt for Magical Readathon, which is the Restoration O prompt, and the prompt for this was to read a book with a single focus on the cover, which is the house. So I read this in 2 days. It was a very, very quick read, but I just was not really into it. I just could not work out what this book was trying to do. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be like a speculative fiction, if it was horror. It just felt all over the place and like it was trying to do a lot of things at once without being successful at any of them. Although it was a very quick read, I just couldn't get into it fully. I feel like because it's really short, it was a little bit rushed and the pacing was off. I just didn't vibe with it, especially having only read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue as well. I loved that. I thought it was fantastic. It was beautifully written, and this still had that beautiful writing style, but it just, the plot and the story and the characters just did not really work. I really enjoyed the concept of the like shadow house, the shadow world, what lurks in the dark, and following Olivia, who is mute. What actually happened, I just didn't really understand. I don't know, it just was not really it. So then the second book that I read in August was Mina and the Undead by Amy McCaw, and I rated this 5 stars. It was so good. And I used this for the Element of Water prompt for Magical Readathon, which was part of the Elemental Studies class, and the prompt for that is to start a book with a drink, which I can't remember if that's what I actually did, but we're just gonna say that I did. So yeah, this is a young adult mystery horror about Mina, who goes to New Orleans to stay with her sister for the summer, where she like discovers someone who's been murdered, and she and her friends have to find out what's going on. There is vampires. It's really creepy, it's really funny, 90s like horror-esque. It was just so good, so much fun. I absolutely loved it. I'm so excited to read the sequel, Mina and the Slayers, which came out this month, and yeah, it was just really, really good. It's such a fun, quick paced read, and I actually had the pleasure of finishing this on Amy McCaw's sprints for Camp Spookathon, which was really, really cool. This was without a doubt a 5 star. I wasn't so sure at the very beginning because I was sort of getting into the pacing of it all and what was going on with the mystery, and I'm not much of like a murder mystery reader, but this was just a lot of fun. It was just so much fun. I feel like our cast of characters are all really likeable, and they're not perfect either. They do have their flaws, which just makes them feel so much more realistic. There is also a lot of references to Interview with the Vampire in here, which I did roll my eyes out a little bit because I've read that book this year and I did not really like the series. I love the film though, and I feel like the fact that I have already read the book, I got a few more of the references. I don't know. I just really liked it, and the setting as well in New Orleans was perfect. There's a few references to Whitby as well, which I think is where Mina and her sister were from. I'm a little bit fuzzy on the details now. But this was just so much fun, and it's just like it was just a really cool book. It was just so good. I don't know. I just really liked it. This also was gifted to me from Jen for one of the Patreon gift exchanges that I have participated in over the past year. So thank you, Jen. I absolutely loved this. So then the last book I read during Camp Spoopathon was Afterlove by Tanya Byrne, and I rated this 5 stars as well. For Magical Readathon, I used this for a quest, which was the AWW needs you, and the prompts for that was to read a book with undead characters. This is another young adult. It's sort of a contemporary romance about a girl who has died. This book it wrecked me. It just completely wrecked me. This was another one that I read really quickly. All of the books that I read during Camp Spoopathon I read really quickly because I read the 3 of them in the space of a week. But Afterlove in particular, oh my god. Yeah. I feel like I'm still traumatised by it. So in Afterlove, we're following Ash, and it's sort of in 2 halves. So the first half is when she's still alive and she meets this girl Poppy, and they start getting into a relationship with each other, and it's the first time Ash has met someone who she feels like she really cares about and who cares about her in the same way. They have such a strong connection, they have so much chemistry on page, and it's like really lovely feelings of like first love and the excitement of it all. And Ash, she feels like that she will finally like be able to settle down with someone, that Poppy is maybe like the one for her. This isn't a spoiler because it happens in the blurb. Then Ash dies on New Year's Eve, and it is just so heartbreaking. It is so tragic, and the rest of the book is kind of following Ash as she becomes a Reaper. The last person to die on New Year's Eve becomes a Reaper who has to take souls of the dead to the afterlife. And so Ash is sort of struggling with being dead, being a Reaper, where she's still like in the world and she's not allowed to see her family, she's not allowed to see Poppy, and it's just awful. It was just so awful. I was reading most of this when I was on the train, and it just broke me. I nearly started crying many times in public when I was reading this. It was just so gut-wrenching, especially because I thought from the blurb most of the book would be following Ash when she is a Reaper. You do spend like half of the book with her and Poppy and seeing their relationship blossom and how Ash interacts with her family and her friends as well. The way that it's just ripped away from her when she dies, I feel really emotional talking about it right now. It was just horrible. Obviously the stuff with the Reaper is all very supernatural, like that's not necessarily real, but you know, people die in accidents all the time, and they have lives and they have relationships and they have people who care about them. The way Tanya Byrne wrote about how Ash left everything behind when she died and how Ash was reacting to her own death, like it just, I don't know, yeah, it just broke me. I cannot recommend this book enough. It was fantastic. The way Tanya Byrne has made me care so much about this fictional character and the life that she had to leave behind. I literally feel like I'm about to start crying talking about it. Like it was just fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. Okay, moving on before I become an emotional mess once again. So the next book that I finished was Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas, and I gave this 5 stars. I know, I didn't see it coming either. For Magical Readathon, I used this for the restoration prompt Q. Yeah, for the Q qualification, which was Enchanted Scroll Mending, and the prompt for this is to read one of the oldest books on your TBR. I guess this is one of the oldest books on my TBR because I first heard about this book in particular back in 2015, I think, when it first came out, when I first sort of discovered booktube and everybody was talking about this because it had just come out. So I guess that's how long it's been on my TBR for, although physically I've only owned it about 12 months. I feel like that counts. 5 stars for Queen of Shadows. After I wanted to DNF the series reading Air of Fire, I just could not believe how much I enjoyed this book. I'm so shocked at how much I loved it and being back in the world of Throne of Glass. I think because I took my time with this as well, it took me about 2 weeks to read this book, and it is a pretty long book, but typically even a book of this length I can read in about a week, but because I let myself take my time with it, I feel like I enjoyed it properly and I was able to take in the information and just really like grasp what was going on. I loved this. It was so interesting, like everything that was happening. I feel like at this point in her career, Sarah J Maas had really found her groove with how she writes, and she was able to tell a story that was interesting and made sense and was not info dumpy with the world building. And that's probably the main issue that I had with Heir of Fire, the fact that it was really info dumpy because you're in a whole new part of the world. It's a lot of world building and a lot to take in, whereas in this book we are back in a very familiar place. I liked the setting of this a lot more, as well as the plot and everything that was going on. I really love the characters in this book as well. I feel like we got to know them a lot better, and they gave me much of the same vibes as the Inner Circle in the Akatar series and as Team Fuck You in the Crescent City series. Something I really liked about this book as well is so much of it reminded me of Skyrim, which is one of my favourite games. As you know, my TBR game's based on it. I just really loved like the world, like the city that this mainly takes place in. It reminds me a lot of Riften. The world itself reminds me of the geography of Skyrim, especially where they go at the end of the book. Reminds me a lot of the like frozen tundra in Skyrim around like where Whiterun is. I don't know, or maybe more Falkreath actually. If you've not played the game, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. I can't talk too much about this book without giving away spoilers because it is like the fourth main one in the series, but I just really enjoyed it. I'm so looking forward to reading Empire of Storms, which of course I will vlog as well. If you want to see my full thoughts on this book, I have a spoilery vlog available for you to watch, and the same for the books that I read for Camp Spoopathon as well, but not with spoilers. I did a vlog for that week to talk more in depth about the books that I read. You don't have to worry about spoilers with that one. So the next book that I read was Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Jaigirdar, and I gave this 4 stars. Just missed the mark for me. This was another book that I read in like 2 sittings, and that's why I used it for the read a book in 1 or 2 sittings prompt, which was the Restoration D prompt, which was urgent battle care. It was so funny as well because when I finished this, like just after I finished this won the, I think it's the YA book prize or something, which was pretty cool. And this was also the book that I was reading at the train station, and this person just came up to me and was like, I've read the other book that this author has written, what do you think of this one? Like, is it any good? And I was just talking to her about this book, and I didn't know what to say to her, to be honest, because I was just in a lot of shock. But yeah, this was really good. I can't quite remember why I gave it 4 stars instead of 5. I think it's just because it's a YA romance and it was a little bit simple in that sense for what I like to read, but I feel like for the age range that this is obviously directed at, like, it was fantastic. So it's about these 2 Bengali girls who are bisexual. Hani, she comes out as bisexual to her white friends and they don't believe her, and then Ishu, she has a lot of trouble going on at home. Like, she feels second best to her sister, and so she wants to prove to her parents that she is like this perfect daughter, and to do that she wants to be head girl. Now Hani is really popular at school, so the 2 of them kind of come up with a plan to fake date so that Hani can prove to her friends she is actually bisexual and Ishu can get more popular amongst her peers to become head girl. So that's kind of the situation that they have worked out, and they fake date, and it's just so cute because they don't really like each other, they don't get on, they feel like they get lumped together quite a lot because they're the only 2 Bengali girls in their school. And it just talks a lot about homophobia, about Islamophobia as well. It was just really good. I'm so bad at talking about books. Honestly, I have no thoughts in my head. I'm just like, this book was really good, and then that's it. I just really love the way it talked about those sorts of topics, as well as having this really cute like fake dating backdrop to it. It was just really lovely, and I loved them as characters as well. Like, they both felt fully fleshed out. You could really believe this book, which is what I really enjoyed as well. I definitely think it deserved the prize that it won. It was fantastic. I wish I could remember why it just missed the mark for me. Maybe it was the writing style or just sort of the plot in general, I don't know. But I'm really looking forward to reading her first book, which is the Henna Wars, and I think her new book is coming out pretty soon as well, which is called The Do's and Donuts of Falling in Love or something like that, and they're all like sapphic books about Bengali people, I think. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading more in this sort of style. It was really interesting, it was really fun, it was really cute, and I love Hani and Ishu. They are really cute. I don't know, they're just lovely. So then right at the end of the month, I was trying to make my way through Clockwork Princess, and I think I just had a little bit of reading fatigue from making my way through Queen of Shadows, to be honest. So I just wanted to pick up something easy, so that's when I picked up Saga Volume 2 by Brian K. Vaughn and Fiona Staples. And so I used this for another quest for Magical Readathon, which was the Amphibian Wranglers Wanted quest, which was to read a book whose author like name starts with a B or something like that, and obviously B for Brian. So this is the second volume in the Saga series, obviously, which is a comic series set in space between two warring worlds. One of them is like the main planet, and I think one of is the moon of said planet. It's like a massive space opera. You've got these two warring species, and then a member of each of the species, they develop a relationship with each other and they have a baby together, and they are on the run, and we're sort of following them while they are on the run. I feel like that was a really complicated explanation. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. I've been wanting to pick up the second volume for quite a while, but I've just been like putting it off, and I don't know why, because it's just so fun. It's so fast paced. It's really funny. It's also really graphic, like not just in a, there's a lot of like on page gore type stuff, but just some of the pages, some of the scenes, you just look at them and you think, oh okay. It's so good, it's so funny, and just it also deals with a lot of serious topics as well, especially because these are two communities who are like forbidden from, you know, mingling with each other. They're at war, they've been at war for years. There's also like a really interesting political plotline going on as well. Like you're following the main characters. Marco, I think, is the guy on the cover, and his like wife and their child. You're following them as they're like on the run, but you're also following a group of people who are like on catching them. And then there's like these robot people as well who are like, they have like humanoid bodies and then like a TV for a head. And I think one of them's the prince, and you're like following him as well. So you've got sort of like 3 main things going on, and I'm not sure how it's all going to interconnect just yet, but it's like this main overarching political plot line that I'm really intrigued by and really interested to learn more about. The saga, like I feel like I've been sleeping on this for so long. I've heard so many great things about it. I feel like it's revered as being like the comic series to read, and I really want to pick up volume 3 as soon as possible. So here we have it. Here are nearly all of the books that I read in August, obviously minus Afterlove because I read it on my Kindle. I feel like August was a pretty good reading month. I feel like I didn't read as much as I wanted to, but I'm trying to not worry too much about the amount of books that I'm reading and more about the quality of the books that I'm reading, and trying to make myself read books I'm actually enjoying more instead of reading books that I'm just not particularly interested in. So yeah, it was a pretty good reading month for me in August. I feel like I haven't made any sense at all in this video, so if you managed to get any recommendations off me, congratulations, you managed to make sense of my ramblings. But that is it from this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below what you have read in August. If you haven't already and you would like to be, please do consider subscribing. I post a new video every single week, and that's it from me today, guys. Bye!